Yay!
Yes.
Oh my god!
Katie is.
I don't like. I didn't do anything different. I don't know what's happening.
The tech goblins took a pity on a kind Libra Divinatrix, and we're finally like, Katie has to talk about horror movies.
I kissed the goblin for this to work in between. So really,
and that's not a euphemism. He kissed an actual little goblin.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh my god! I don't like. I didn't do anything different. I don't know what's happening.
Wait. I'm hearing an echo.
I'm hearing the echo too.
Oh, I think someone's YouTube is on audio.
Yeah.
Katie has to talk about horror movies.
I kissed the goblin for this. It's not always me.
It's an actual goblin. I mean, I'm happy to hear Katie talk as much as Katie wants to talk.
Kind of making me feel insane.
I'm hearing the echo too.
Oh, I think someone's YouTube is on audio.
Yeah.
It's me.
I kissed
you guys. It was freaking me.
So what you're saying is the calls are actually coming from inside the house.
Yes.
Segue.
Yes. Excellent. Yes. And it was me the whole time. It was me the whole time. I was the killer the whole time.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, so amazing.
I have 2 web browsers open. Like, why did I do that? Who does
Elder
that?
just said it's quantum.
That's it. Yes,
Exactly.
exactly. So it's thematic for the conference if you've done your paid enough attention.
Should be able to watch and participate all at once. People like computers.
Absolutely.
Let's do everything at once.
Yes, please.
So
welcome.
Yes,
welcome.
Welcome.
Chaos. Let's calm down a little bit.
Yeah.
Stay hydrated, everyone. Stay hydrated.
I have a giant mug full of water just to be extra safe.
Yep.
Should we talk about horror movies?
Tell me everything about horror movies, Katie, please.
Yes.
So originally I was just gonna like wing it and just chat about horror movies because that's really fun. But I made a presentation instead.
Love it. Love it. Love the last minute substitution. Love it.
Yeah, I woke up at 7 and decided I was gonna make a PowerPoint.
Yay!
So I did. I feel like this is the audience. This is the right audience. And that's what changed my mind. After seeing Liminal Earth speak and seeing the chat and seeing how everybody was reacting, I was like, these people are ready for the way I think about horror movies. So I'm going to jump in.
I love it. Please do.
All right.
Before I like share my screen and stuff like that, I just like want to talk about the genre a little bit because I think it's got a lot of misconceptions around it. And I think there's a lot, just like everything, you know, it's like as people in the paranormal kind of like world, we're used to that. Like we're used to people being like, you know, a ghost is a ghost and a Bigfoot is this. And I feel like horror movies have become like part of that. They have the stigma where they must be like a scary movie. But horror is not synonymous with scary. Horror movies, since their inception, have been tackling not just like fear-based emotions, but societal like problems, thoughts that people like are dealing with internally that you can't necessarily speak about. And they're just like fringe topics in general. And so I think the more fringe and the more like pushed to the edges of society some sort of idea is, then it becomes part of the horror genre. And I guess I'll share my screen because that's the first slide. Right. So like, I'm like launching into it.
I love it. This is great.
Does that make sense? Like,
Yes.
I feel like there's all these, like, when you follow horror, like writers and directors on the internet, you see all these comments and people are like, that wasn't scary, or that didn't scare me. And I just like can't help but be like, oh, these people are missing out on so much.
Totally.
Because yeah, right? Like, and being scared is a personal experience.
Right. A personal visceral experience. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because like, sure, we all argue like what's real and like what's in front of us and stuff like that. And so, yeah, sure, we have this like tangible like reality in front of us, but our brain is its own reality 100%, and it's 100% real what you deal with in your brain. Yes. And so that's like where, and that's kind of like where horror movies live, right? They live in that reality because they're fiction ultimately. I mean, even if they're based off of a true story, the movie itself is fiction. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, they kind of like live in an, even though there's a tangible, like you could buy the DVD, humans like got dressed up and they acted and did this thing. And like, it was created in the tangible reality, but ultimately like lives in this one.
Right. It gets filtered through what's in your brain case. And like that determines your experience of it. So yes.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, of course.
But also why it's important to understand like the nuance. Cause I don't know. I just feel like it's like the best storytelling genre out there.
I love it.
Okay.
Right.
So let's see. Share my screen.
All right. I will mute and hide my
desktop. Yeah, that sounds good. Oh, sorry. I have to like grant access. Zoom. What? It's gonna quit. It's gonna kick me out of Zoom, and then I have to sign back in.
No.
Oh, wait. It says I can quit later.
Okay, good. Please don't quit. We need you.
I know. Like, what happens? How long is it going to take me to come back?
Exactly.
Oh, God. Okay. I guess that should have done it. So, yeah, that worked.
Yes.
Okay. You can see it?
Yes.
Great. And then I guess we'll just do it like this, so that I can still stare at myself in the corner. Bruh.
I'm an Aquarius. I am so here for this energy.
It looks great.
Yeah, like if I full screen this, I can't like make sure I'm like in frame or looking all right.
Exactly. So, you have to honor your stars. You have to honor your stars.
As a fellow Libra, I understand. I thought about doing an outfit change. Truly, I'm like,
that would have been cute. That would have been cute. Fully support the outfit change. All right. Well, I didn't know what to title this, so I'm just going to skip it because I don't even know if it makes sense.
I think it does, but you do your thing.
Great. How do I, oh, am I going to really have to hit play to go through all these? Lame.
It should, but the everybody that's done PowerPoints have the floating head thing up there.
Yes.
So you should be good.
It works.
All right.
I can full screen this and it works. Look at that. All right. Technology actually doing something good. Okay. Where did my mouse go though? Okay. So I already this is why I was like, I should just jump right in because I already started to talk about it. Just moving past strict categories that we refer to, moving past these strict ideas of what horror movies are. So many people they don't like horror movies because they don't like to be scared. And I get that. It's like a common idea. Like you think of horror movies and you might think of Jason or Michael Myers or, for some people it's like The Exorcist or Amityville. And sure, those movies are scary as fuck. So I can get why if like you have, you identify the horror genre with those movies, you might think you don't like it. But if you are entertained by fringe ideas like quantum physics, time travel, things that go on in your brain, then you are interested in horror movies because all of these topics are covered in a really fun visual way. So today, if any of you saw my Phenomenacon presentation, I talked a lot about how divination is an access to our subconscious, and making memories gives us an access to like a full spectrum, like a quantum spectrum of time. And we can access all different points of other people's lives through our memory and our subconscious. So today we're making a memory all together that will be accessed later, I'm sure, by at least one of us. I already just said that. Okay, let's get into the clips. So one fun thing about horror movies is that they showcase stuff that a lot of us do in our day-to-day, like automatic writing. This is from The Others. What did your mother do to you? What did your mother do? So the ghost is chatting with this medium, right?
Something about a pillow.
Is that how she killed you? And then, of course, the movie will sensationalize this situation, which in real life, you know, you don't necessarily have this like ghostly looking child like whispering in your ear. That's not necessarily how, what am I trying to say? You know, clairaudient behavior or synapses or anything like that works. But that's another discussion. I didn't really want to talk about how horror movies sensationalize our real life because it's not a really like fun topic. But it's true and we all know it. We've all seen The Conjuring and we all know the real story. We all know what horror movies do. But it is fun, right? To like see people doing some of the things that you're really interested in that are fringe topics that you don't actually see all the time, like automated writing. All right, getting into The Innkeepers, one of my favorite movies when it comes to actually showcasing like ghost hunting in its traditional. I mean, it's ghost hunting isn't traditional. It's just like what Travel Channel decided to show everybody what ghost hunting is. But The Innkeepers is cute because a lot of us do these things, and there are valuable ways and valuable skills to learn from certain shows if you build off of it and if you do your own thing with it. So here we see some of the characters using some pretty dank equipment to try to catch EVPs. Ghost time. Talking about ghosts. Ready?
The thing about physical encounters is you don't really remember the details. It's weird. You think you would, but it's like it's just there in 1 minute and gone the next. It's never there at all. I don't know how to explain it.
It's like the director had a real ghost experience or something, right? Don't you find that really real? I was like, so it in more like a horror movie sense, like sure, this is going to build and this movie gets sensationalized and it kind of gets a little wild towards the end, but it is based off of like experiences and like feelings that we've all felt while investigating in the dark, right? Like the one time my former team and I all simultaneously saw a actual like full body apparition. It was just like what he talked about, there and then gone, which brings me to the next one. Ju-on, the movie that got remade into The Grudge. Same ideas, right? Like we all know that ghosts experiences mess with your mind because you're not totally sure what you've seen. And in a lot of cases, if people aren't willing to discuss them with you, you know, they start questioning your sanity, which is rude, which is just plain rude because your personal experiences matter. However, it seems like across the board, like this is an idea that, you know, people are having. And even when we watch movies like Ju-on or The Innkeepers or Insidious, other movies that showcase like ghost hunters and they're supposed to portray like a real ghost experience, like The Conjuring or Amityville or something, even though I think Amityville is fake, but that's a different discussion. And they all seem to be having like similar experiences. So that's like something that I think is really exciting across the board in horror movies, is that you kind of like, yeah, sure, here I am out here identifying with a horror movie. But again, if you get away from the idea that it's just scary, or if you just own it, because, you know, Twitter, especially out here, being like, oh, liberals and oh, everybody does this and oh, gay people are evil. I saw like a meme that somebody took like Pride Month and they like took the middle letters and it said demon. And it's like, you could get mad and be like, oh, what demon? Or you can just own it, right? And just be like, yeah, fucking demon, bitch. And that's how I feel about horror. Like, you know, I'm told like I'm evil for using tarot and because I have tattoos and horror movies are my favorite. Oh, people love to say that I'm evil for the horoscopes. You know what? Great. I will be evil. Evil is now my new good. So just, you know, switching the mindscape around a little bit and just owning it. Like, sure. Okay. Pride Month for demons. Yeah. Demons. We'll take it. Demons are dope. Demons are dope now. Anyway, so Ju-on. Ju-on is a really cool franchise at this point because they've done a lot of different things. So here we see in the center, I think that's the original cover art, or at least once they printed it in America, that became the cover art. But recently, Netflix did a Ju-on origin story that follows a paranormal writer through the idea of this franchise. And this franchise is based off of this. Whoa, right? That is an exciting idea to me, to take concepts that there are different types of energies out there, right? So if somebody dies, let's say in a horrific way, they're getting murdered slowly or something, okay? And it's torturous. And so there's all this pain that kind of like sinks into the atmosphere and it sinks into the aura around the person. And maybe the pain is left behind. So when you walk into the room, you feel uncomfortable, right? Like you feel the leftover pain. And I think, you know, this crowd is full of people that have entered these like formerly like, well, not formerly haunted, like currently haunted places, like abandoned places, places that maybe no longer have like consistent energy running through them. So this like timestamp is like left, like an energy timestamp is left. And we've walked in and we felt that, right? And it's been a little bit like this. Dead in her tracks. She feels it instantly. She's not even in the building yet, right? You don't even have to go to a place that's like notoriously haunted to have these feelings. And I'm sure so many of you already know that. And so I think like it's kind of fun to be able to relate to these things. And even just on a like a day-to-day basis. So let's say she's interacting with a haunted building, right? But you can like have a bad feeling about the test you're about to take when you walk into the test room and feel a weird energy. Like maybe like there's certain people that are frazzled and the room feels different. Like there are so many applications to understanding energy flow, whether it's like left behind by a spirit or not. Excuse me, I ate so many gummies before this and they're giving me acid reflux and I have no Tums. Just like burping all the time here. So professional. So Ju-on is really exciting to me in that way. And of course, there's just like going to be a million movies I don't even touch on. I'm just doing some random ones that are currently streaming. So if you want to take a look and get in on the horror fun, you can. What are we doing next? Oh, this is great. So we're moving on. So I think I kind of tried to make this presentation flow like a horror movie. So it started off with really basic concepts of ghost hunting. concepts of energy feeling. And now we're getting into how society has trained our brain to think certain ways, because the way that our brain thinks and the biases that we carry on into everything that we do and the way that we process information and the world in general. So this is a clip from George Romero's movie, The Amusement Park.
Hurry up, you're gonna mess the car. Okay, good. Sorry, ma'am, you're not allowed. Read the sign there. Let's go, come on, next. Go fast, I guess. Oh, easy. Here. Fine. I'm sorry, man, you can't tell. Please. The sign. Read the sign. Maybe we can't get on. How come we can't get on?
Can't ride the ride if you don't meet the qualifications. I'm sure a lot of you are feeling that, even if you're not necessarily, even if these qualifications don't describe you. Let's take it as a metaphor, right? Society do be that way. So whoever or whatever gets pushed into the fringe becomes a horror movie thought form. So like I keep saying over and over again, and I'm going to say it a million times because I want it in your subconscious so bad. Horror is not synonymous with scary. Even though if it was synonymous with scary, scary is still smart. It's a form of intellect to get into horror movies, intellect like showcasing or something. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. So our biases create certain thought forms that we carry with us on a day-to-day basis. And whether you are investigating a scary residence, or you are a cashier at TJ Maxx, you are living through your biases. And those biases will dictate how you treat the people that you come in contact with. And when society supports your biases, you get behavior like this.
Going for crying out loud. There's anything stupider than a woman driver. It's an old woman driver. What do you mean? You made a left-hand turn with a right-hand signal. How old are you? So if it's any of your business, I'm 67.
It's not his business. And so immediately he knew that he could be in the wrong and be misbehaving because he did use a right-hand turn signal and turn the other way, which caused her to crash into him. He was that first particle, right? He was the particle interacting with her particles, but he knew that his particles were going to be valued by this cop and by the insurance agent that comes over later. I would play the whole clip, but it ended up being too long for this presentation thingy to handle. So we just got the cut because it's like, you get the idea, right? Like you get the idea that the fact that, you know, when society props up these certain biases, it becomes really problematic, and it becomes something that now we as a society have to overcome. And so it becomes a much larger problem than just us ghost hunters having the wrong information or not being able to see the truth of a situation because our mind is focused on something else. So this is The Amusement Park. You can watch it on Shudder. George Romero never actually released this movie. Fun fact, he died before it got like approved or something like that. Whoever originated this and like funded this pulled out and did not support this movie because it was such a blatant commentary on society, is why I would guess that they wouldn't do that. But it's kind of sad. It's not one of the more fun horror movies out there because it is so blatantly like ageist, you know, on purpose, like make a point, but it has some like great history. So horror forever has been just like that, though, a commentary on society, right? We see movies like The Inheritors about kids who get pushed into the fringe and they find the wrong one, right? Like they find the Nazi like fringe life, like these kids were abused and they ran away from their like cul-de-sac style neighborhood because nobody believed them. So they got pushed into the fringe, but then they became Nazis. We see that with QAnon people all the time though, right? And we see that with flat earth people all the time. If you ever watch the flat earth documentary on Netflix, they do an experiment to prove that the earth is flat, but they actually prove that the earth is curved. And so, because duh. And so the interviewer is like, well, now that you've proved that the earth is curved, are you going to, you know, not be flat earthers anymore? And it's so sad. It's like kind of heartbreaking because he's like, this kid's just like, no, this is my family. He's like, nobody else was ever there for me the way these people were. And so I'm going to still be a flat earther because I don't want to, you know, walk away from my family. And it's like so heartbreaking to see, but that's where we all come back, right? To like society and who we're pushing into the fringes and how those particles are interacting with that person's particles. But yes, newer commentary on society is like Get Out. I always think of the white family in Get Out, specifically like the dad in the center of this and his family and like the evil girl there when like UFO Twitter is talking. I'm always like, And then Society. Society is a movie from the 80s about classism. I have a really great clip from that for you. So what? My mouse is just like, here we go. The lengths we'll go to fit into the rules we created, the rules that we created as a society, right? Like, because obviously, like all these like things that we have to overcome were created by us. So this like flesh orgy happens if you want to become one of the 1%. Like if you want to be beautiful and rich, you must give over your flesh. And I don't know. I think it's pretty accurate. But that's like, you know, a nice fun body horror, because horror is not just a great storytelling genre, it's a great artistic genre as well. And we see practical effects becoming art, like, you know, guys like Tom Savini starting their own school off of making, you know, spaghetti guts and corn syrup masks and stuff like that in his kitchen as a kid, to making these beautiful, like iconic Friday the 13th movies, you know, being in like Dawn of the Dead movies, not Dawn of the Dead. Well, he worked on Dawn of the Dead, but he was in that Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez shit. I can't think of it. It's cool. Let's move on. It'll come to me at the very end. I too am neurodivergent. That's why I thought a PowerPoint would be good for me too. So this is my really gross computer screen that you're staring at. I have a 12-year-old, so there's fingerprints literally all over it in a disgusting manner. So just look past that, because when we talk about fitting into society, there's plenty of other horror movies that come to mind, and this is probably the most popular.
What do you think? Oh, very nice.
Right? Like, who hasn't seen American Psycho? A book written by Bret Easton Ellis, who also wrote Luna Park, which is one of the scariest books I've ever read. Not a horror writer, according to him, but obviously a horror writer.
We're not through yet. That's a wonderful suit. It looks so soft.
And horror movies have this talent, right? They have this talent for showing you the truth as fiction, right? Like some of the scariest, most notorious killers we've seen in society are totally people like this, like Bundy, who tried to fit in, right? But ultimately they don't.
Do you have any witnesses or fingerprints?
Might be like frozen. Ultimately they don't. right. So now we're going to let this build up, and I'm just going to keep throwing more concepts at you, and I'm going to let you layer them in your brain like a sandwich and just chew on it for a while, and we can talk about it as much as possible. So horror movies, they tackle all of the things that I've mentioned, and then they get into ideas about our brain and the concepts and the way that our brains work. And this is my favorite part of the genre. It has sparked so much of my inspiration as a paranormal enthusiast. I'm a big tulpa, psychokinetic energy obsessed person. See, my cat is, he knows. I don't know if you can hear him, but he's like, yeah, she is.
Katie.
Hey.
We, sorry, we think your presentation stuck because people didn't see the last two clips.
Oh,
and when I look at it, I'm still seeing the Inheritors and Get Out in Society. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, please interrupt. Definitely do not want that. Okay, you're still seeing the Inheritors. Have you seen the next? Do you see that I fixed it?
Not on the screen share.
Okay. How about now?
Now, I mean, the YouTube folks are on like a 20-second delay, so I see the links will go to fit in.
Yep.
So they should see that in a moment.
Okay. That was my bad. I apparently hit pause share.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. I didn't even know. My mouse disappears, and so I'm just arbitrarily like hitting the button, and it must have just clicked on it. Like the image of the mouse like disappears when I go full screen.
Cool.
Mercury retrograde.
Oh, it's feeling it.
Feeling it. It's fun. It's just like a new labyrinth to walk through. It's just like a new set of delays. New challenges. How about this? Can you see the rich people orgy now?
Yes.
Yes.
Wouldn't want you to miss out on that. Want you to miss out. Actually, a very long scene in the movie. I cut it very short for you guys.
Jenny.
I love the way rich people are portrayed in movies about classism, because it's like kind of how I feel like how we kind of think of them, like, oh, and you know, oh, to be beautiful, you must do this. Like, it's evil. I like it. All right, here we go. The dirty screen I mentioned.
New card.
American Psycho coming in hot. Bret Easton Ellis.
Very nice.
I forget who directed this. I just know she's a woman because obviously.
You'd like to accompany me to dinner? Sabrina, why don't you dance a little? Christine, get down on your knees. We're not through yet. That's a wonderful suit. You look so soft. I don't think I can control myself if you stay. Something bad will happen. I feel lethal. On the verge of frenzy. I think my mask of sanity is about to slip.
Big believer, the more normal you appear, the more you're hiding. Okay, here we go. Getting into tulpas, getting into psychokinetic manifestations of our mind, getting into time travel, interdimensional travel, a little bit of quantum physics. I'm not a quantum physics person. We all just listen to Adler. So it's like, I'm not even going to attempt anything. We're just going to watch ideas. But Adventure Time talks about tulpas in the best, most concise and succinct way. So we're just going to listen to Finn tell us what a tulpa is.
Let the blobs of tulpa.
Physical manifestations of concentrated collective thought. They're entities who depend on the energy of people believing in them in order to exist. People like Starchy's listeners.
Right? A lot of things are that way. And when we think about this as paranormal investigators, we think about it like, would the idea of Jesus exist anymore if people stopped believing? There's that Tom Robbins book, Jitterbug Perfume, where Pan is almost basically nothing left but a smell because he has no more believers. He's faded out of existence almost entirely until these people start smelling him and they start interacting with him again and they start bringing him back to life. And so in these instances, they're tulpas, right? But maybe they were once gods, but what are gods without people to worship them? So I think about that a lot in ancestor worship and in my witchcraft practice, because it's kind of like, I expect a little bit back from my ancestors, because if I wasn't here giving them all of these offerings and giving them this love and attention, they would have less love and attention. And so I expect love and attention from my ancestors as well. And so in exchange, we've got this like worship for one another. And I kind of think that that's what like real life relationships are a little bit like as well. And, you know, without me, do my ancestors exist anymore? Like in pictures, and maybe when people think of them, I'm just gonna put a period right there. And so we have all of these different horror movies that kind of showcase belief, right? And what are our beliefs? So if you believe, we're in a sandwich, right? So we've stacked up on some biases. So if you're like that dude, Park, and you believe that women are bad drivers, you're going to go around in your life and you're going to blame all of the things that are going wrong on the road are on because of the bad women drivers around you. And you are going to get stuck in this belief, and you might never grow and become a better driver, because probably a lot of the instances weren't just the drivers around you. There were probably some things that were your fault as well. So you no longer see how you're contributing to this situation if you're just constantly blaming others. And so horror movies bring this out a lot. When we talk about, you know, Candyman, the first picture is Empty Man, and then the last picture is Bloody Mary, who's a little bit different, because where we have like Candyman and Empty Man coming from a completely like fictional like wave of existence, Bloody Mary actually comes from a real life wave of existence and is now kind of just become a thought form along the lines of Candyman and Empty Man. Kind of interesting, right? Kind of interesting what we become when our physical flesh suit is no longer here to have flesh orgies with the rich. Moving on. I wish I had 1,000,000 hours with you guys, because I would have just sat here and I would have made you all watch Coherence. I love this movie. Is it a perfect movie? No. Are the characters all completely annoying and you have to just get over that and watch it for 88 minutes with these annoying people? Yes. But are the ideas in Coherence so freaking awesome and worth 88 of your minutes in dealing with these annoying characters? Yes. This movie is excellent. It is based off of the premise that a comet is passing by Earth so close that it has disrupted the fabric of time, and they are interacting with another existence of themselves at the same time. I have some clips because this is fun. My gross computer. Yep. So what has happened here is they've started to realize that they are seeing another like parallel dimension. some fight happens in this movie, and one of them leaves and sees the house that they're in, having a party in. They walk out and they see that very same house, and that's what's happening here. This guy's like, this is my house. They end up going in this house and they end up finding a box of pictures of all of their faces. And on the back of each picture is a number. And so then they start getting into numerology and what the numbers could mean. But in this instance of realizing that they're experiencing themselves in a parallel dimension, they start kind of trying to figure out how they're going to prove that each person that goes outside and comes back into the house is from the dimension they originally started in. So they have these blue glow sticks. And so one group has these blue glow sticks, and then you see another group that they encounter while they're walking right here with red glow sticks. So this is how they differentiate between what dimension they're experiencing, is who has what color glow stick, and they're doing it across dimensionally. So each dimension is doing this, and each dimension happens to have a different color. Also, this clip just proves that your interdimensional self is just as scared of you as you are of it. And I think about this kind of thing when we see like Liminal Earth, for example. I'm just going to keep bringing them up because they're part of this convention, and I really loved everything that they had to say. When you follow them on TikTok and they do these dream meetups, they don't just say, meet me anywhere in my dream, you know, because that would be too easy. It would be too easy to get that confused with a forced like imagination. You might be able to imagine the people from Liminal Earth like nearby or at a beach or in a kitchen where you sit down and you feed them some dinner, but instead they're asking you to meet them at this abandoned, very specific abandoned playground, and they're asking you to open a box and tell them what is in it. And to me, that is exactly what's happening in this movie, is that we're seeing people trying to differentiate how that they know who is part of what dimension, and how are they going to prove that they are interacting with the people that they started with. And so, you know, ideas of astral travel and ideas that we use all the time while we explore our minds and we explore the outer realms and the other dimensions and the innards of our earth. We see it in horror movies too. This is probably this is a controversial opinion. However, I've been telling you all along that horror movies showcase fringe ideas. They're not just out to scare you. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is a horror movie. And it's okay to me that no one agrees. I know it's a horror movie, and that is all that's important. But Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is a really beautiful way to watch and visualize how you're retrieving memories and what happens when you delete memories in your mind. So I mentioned this in the very beginning of talking, as I just started blurting out at you because I'm like nervous. But I believe that a lot of divination works because we are accessing parts of our subconscious, because we know everything that happens to us already, which Adler talked about in their presentation about quantum physics. And we hear Eric Wargo talk about it a lot. If you've read Time Loops, you're on the same wavelength. You kind of know exactly what I'm talking about. And I feel that way in a big way, especially when you read tarot cards for a large group of people. I do like the zodiac, each like zodiac sun sign or rising. I don't really get any more involved than that. And just because it's easy to access that large amount of energy in like some kind of like other wave, right? And so I see Michel Gondry, the director of this movie, who makes a lot of really great music videos as well, showcasing this technique in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Here's a clip of Jim Carrey trying to interact with a former memory of his, which is an interesting idea.
Ruthless at the moment. Really should go.
So go.
I did. You were at night. But you were excited.
Stay.
I wish I'd stayed too. Now I wish I'd stayed. I wish I'd done a lot of things. I wish I'd stayed. I do.
Well, I came back downstairs and you were gone.
I walked out the door. I don't know. I felt like a scared little kid. I was like above my head. I don't know.
You were scared?
Yeah. That's what you got about me.
I like that he says that. I thought you knew that about me. He is interacting with a memory in the moment while it's being erased from his mind. So that's why the building is falling down around him, because it is slowly being erased from his mind by like Elijah Wood and like Kirsten Dunst or something like that. And that's a really interesting concept. One, we don't necessarily have this service yet where we're erasing parts of people's memories specifically on purpose. I think like we have pharmaceutical drugs that do a really good job of that, like Xanax erases minds. And I'm sure there's plenty others, but I don't delve in that kind of stuff anymore. But there's plenty of ways that we try to suppress certain feelings, and that we get caught up like that in humans, but we don't necessarily have a way that we interact with very specific memories that we want erased. We just try to erase everything, right? And I actually kind of think that that's a really interesting thought form to attach to cannabis. While we're now starting to legalize lots of cannabis use, we're seeing testing being done on different strains, and we're realizing that the plant is not just full of THC to get people high or to help people with like nausea and glaucoma and things like that, but it's actually full of different terpenes, and the terpenes of each individual plant actually do different things for the brain, and they can facilitate like brain health, for people who are prone to Alzheimer's and things like that. And they can also, with the specific like combination of terpenes, you can actually dull certain feelings while still maintaining a focused mind. So if you were, say, super anxious or super stressed out of a certain particular thing, one of my favorite strains to kind of like dull that kind of just like tenseness is Sour Kush, because it has a sativa side to it that allows my brain to still think. So it's almost like, you're playing with the aspects of your brain, just like Michel Gondry did in this film. This is the last thing I tried to make a quick presentation, but there's just so much. And I touched on like nothing, because there's an endless amount of horror movies, and there will always be, because there are so many people that love this genre for all that it's worth. And even if they just think it's, some macho test on how scary they are, they still like it because they still get some sort of ego satisfaction by a horror movie that doesn't scare them, right? So there's just like so many people that love horror for so many different ways, and I love how it's the genre that tells the story of life in a non-direct way, right? Like we can find the meanings in these movies, or we don't have to, or we can use them as our own eternal sunshine of the spotless mind and zone out for a moment and just watch carnage, right? All right, so Legion is not a movie. I broke the movie mold. And a lot of people are gonna be like, oh, it's like a Marvel horror, it's like a Marvel superhero show. And sure, it deals with, people with like superpowers or whatever. But I think it's actually a horror show, and it's one of my favorite horror shows, because this guy right up here next to Aubrey Plaza is a telepath, and he is a really powerful telepath, and he starts off in a mental institution. I don't know a better way to say a psych ward. It all sounds really icky. I don't know the proper term. The hospital. He ends up in a hospital, and as the show goes on, you start to wonder if that was actually just a mental construct in his mind that was created because he was never actually in the hospital, right? And so this show takes us all through the different facets of the brain and all through the different ways that you can manifest. So we saw that with the Dybbuk box, right? The Newkirks do a really great presentation on debunking a Dybbuk box. I investigated with that Dybbuk box before we handed it over to the Newkirks. My former team and I were the ones that gave that to them to figure out, because we didn't know shit. And what was really interesting about that box was that it was undeniably giving you the classic, like, haunted stuff. You could investigate with that box and it would give you EVP, and it would talk to you. It constantly told me its name was Sam, and its owner at the time would be like, no, your name's not Sam. Remember, you're Paimon, the demon. So I saw in real time this person trying to condition this box into saying that it was a demon. And the box would not say that it was Paimon. It would say it was Sam. And so it was really interesting because it presented this idea that it was haunted. It presented this idea that it was a haunted object. However, the longer you spent with the box, the more you realize it had its limits. It wasn't conscious. It didn't answer your questions in a conscious way. It just answered up to a point. So it was almost like the box itself was conditioned to answer certain questions. And I'm going to make a big claim here because I have never been there, but I see a lot of this in investigations at Waverly Hills. When people ask questions for the spirits at Waverly Hills, they only get to a certain point. And I can't help but wonder, and I'm only wondering, I'm not stating any sort of fact here because it's just something I think about when I watch all of these investigations, is just, I wonder how much the energy in that building has been conditioned to blink lights, to knock, to give certain answers, because you never fully get an answer. And sure, we can go on and on and on for days about, some kind of gatekeeper, protecting information about spirits and yada, yada, yada. Maybe. But also maybe humans have conditioned this energy to react in a certain way. And we see that happening a lot in Legion. But one of my favorite visual aspects of Legion is the way that they handle Argento. My cat loves the show Legion. I don't know if you can hear him, but he is screaming about Legion. Loves it. We've watched it twice. So one of my favorite visualizations, though, is how it twists the viewer into not being sure whether you are in this dude's mind or if you are watching something that's happening in the tangible reality that we can touch. So they do a lot of experimental ways that they do this. And so I'm going to show you just a few clips. I just grabbed these clips from YouTube because it's been a long time since I've watched the show, and there's 3 seasons. So there's too much content for me to I couldn't find exactly what I wanted to show you guys. So I'm just going to show you what I was able to find quickly on YouTube because it's all relevant. And this show is just so fantastic as a visual representation of all of the things that we think about all the time as paranormal investigators. So this is inside of his mind. And these are all of the synapses firing in his mind. And you heard 2 voices, right? You heard, what are you hiding? And then you heard this other voice. These are parts of our mind, right? Like our anxiety comes in to tell us one thing. Our thought process is doing another thing. We have outside social influences deep in our brain conditioning the way that we're thinking about it. And then we have our internal defenses and traumas that have developed over time, contributing to all of the ways that we think and process all information. But of course, we're just going to specifically talk about paranormal information. So watch this clip, because this dude who is next to outside societal influences is going to represent that in the next clip. And Aubrey Plaza is our internal. Maybe our virus even. We're in the mind of this guy and us, right? Because we're powerful telepaths too. Here we go, trying to exert our control and watch all of the pieces of our mind. Watch what they're doing. This is us trying to figure out, are we having an astral experience? Is this dream a premonition? Are these synchronicities telling me something special, or are they just guiding me on my journey? Here comes outside influences to fuck us up. Sorry, you gotta think about your bills instead. And then we're like, nah, synchronicities. Pulling it back together. We're pulling ourselves back in control. Oh, here comes outside society again. And then
Anxiety enters the chat.
Meta, I said that while I was recording. Because Aubrey Plaza in this show represents a virus inside of his brain who is telling him to do certain things and react certain ways and be this certain type of empath, telepath, whatever. Whoops. That's all I have as far as my slides go. But I just threw a bunch of shit at you guys. You guys want to talk about it?
Oh my God, Katie, that was incredible. That was so incredible. I'm like taking notes about stuff I want to talk to you about afterwards. I'm obsessed with this idea of like the Dybbuk box and Waverly Hills as conditioned objects, right? That essentially like the intention of these investigators has shaped the energetic experiences, that really the energy of this box, this space, and then how like all other people are experiencing it. This idea of feedback loops, right? Energetic feedback loops, and trying to parse out like, okay, what is us imposing that versus what is the thing telling us? What are there spirits in this place, or have enough people been in here asking these questions? And maybe there is energy in that space and it wants to talk, right? Like maybe there was a Sam who wanted to talk through that box, and everyone's like, you're not Sam. It's like, oh, all right.
And then poor Sam.
Poor Sam, exactly.
Yeah, I was going to say, I actually felt bad about that now. I'm like, Sam's just like, hey, anybody there still?
Nope, you're Paimon.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
I know.
Don't do that.
No.
What you were saying about Waverly, though, ties into what Mira and I were talking about. I was just like, I don't know if that's... To me, it's like, you need to stick a bunch of sensors up in there, leave them for a month without any people in there. And it's just like...
You guys know about the Hinsdale house?
Doing that?
No, I don't.
No. Okay.
So they do have a live feed up in their haunted house, streaming at all times.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I interject and I interrupt you with Waverly just because there actually is a haunted house owner out there doing that. But I too think, like, as long as Waverly only makes money as like some kind of paranormal investigative place, like we're not going to actually like get any answers, which is too bad because it's like quite clearly one of the most active places in the US. Okay. But I agree. We have to set up videos and see what goes on without human interaction. Like, is it relying on humans being there? Like, is it a tulpa?
Right. Are we feeding it? Are we creating it as opposed to it just being there? Yeah. Oh my God, Katie, my mind.
You need to set up video cameras, and they need like a team that just consistently investigates Waverly and just keeps going back and just keeps going back. Because as like the Greater Rumford Community Center was a place that when I was with Haunt Me, we went there over 12 times. And it took about I mean, this was over the course of like 7 years, and it took that long for us to actually make headway and get any kind of answers. And we used everything. Like the guy that had keys to that place was the guy with the Dybbuk box. He was the guy that had the Frank's box. And so we were able to experiment with all of these different like paranormal, you know, devices and psychokinetic manifestations in that location. Oh, my internet connection is unstable. Same.
Oh. See, it's okay.
Yeah. It's all good, internet. No judgment.
Exactly. This is a safe space for you, internet.
If space internet, you can be unstable.
Exactly.
Oh my god.
We'll carry you.
Oh, but yeah. People need to go back to the same place again and again and again and again. Like, to me, that is like the bread and butter of actually understanding something. If you are out here and that is your goal, to understand something, you're not like humans. You don't understand them in one night.
Right.
There isn't going to be a single human that's like, oh, sit down, let me tell you my life story tonight.
Right.
Like, it just doesn't happen like that. You
No,
know? So why would we think ghosts would be the same? Like, it's just so foolish.
Yes. Well, and also this idea, like, if you want to make it science or as scientific as possible, considering the subject matter and considering our ability to measure it, like, wouldn't you want to go back again and again and again and collect as much data as possible?
Yes.
That the rigorous research is important.
It's
like,
important.
If you want to be taken seriously. Yeah.
Yeah. And you see it happen quite a bit. Like, you know, people will reach out and they'll want me to go to their house and things like that. And I will. And sometimes you walk into a house where people have had like 5 or 6 experiences and nothing will happen because these 5 or 6 experiences happened to them over the course of like 10 years. And they happened to them while they were just like living their lives. So like to come in and set up and get all these questions ready, like you could never, I mean, unless astrology predicted when, you know, those specific instances happened to them over the course of years, you couldn't just come in at a random time and hope to get that evidence anyway. Like sometimes it really is about like living there and like becoming a part of the haunting itself.
Right. It's funny because I'm thinking about like how you're talking about horror movies and that like it doesn't just have to be like jump scares, and it's like it's the same. I feel like it's the same with so many of the like conventional ghost shows, that they are expecting a scare. They're expecting a door to close. They're expecting some, you know, cryptic thing the being recorded. It's like sometimes like we've conditioned ourselves to just expect this as opposed to like, again, the slow burn. I love the fact that you called Eternal Sunshine a horror movie, and I completely agree with you. So you at least have one person in your camp. Because it's, again, it encompasses so, it's like you said, kind of these these mood, these like tone pieces almost, right? And like getting you into that space. Like that woman who just stopped dead in front of the house, like conveying that there are certain energetic experiences and you can't necessarily describe them. They are more subtle than like, you know, something jumping out of the shadows and they're being allowed, like gong. So, you know, like this is supposed to scare you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes me think too, the kind of a lot of, I feel like there's sort of a, I'm trying to figure out what the like cohesive genre thing with some of the movies you feature. Because I remember the other, like a while back on Twitter, you were saying like Rob Zombie's music, yay, Rob Zombie's movies, boo. And I was like, yes, because I could not handle like House of a Thousand Corpses in the theater. I left.
So
I'm just like, you know.
Have you all seen The Lords of Salem? It's like an
No, I'm not. I've passed. Like I'm just like, Rob.
If you are a witch, do not watch it. You will be so mad. You'll be so mad.
It seems like there has to be like a degree of sophistication and commentary or something in there. I don't know if there's any value just to the like gore show stuff, or if that's just kind of a mirror to like our society being desensitized to violence.
I think that's art.
I don't know.
Because gore is a form of art, you know? I think it's just like, when it comes to gore, it's like you like it or you don't. Like cubism, you like it or you don't. It's just like another form of art.
Yeah. Just a medium. Yeah, exactly.
It is. Yeah. So and that one obviously lands into the stereotypical like horror, and that's fine. Like, people don't like gore and they don't want to be scared and they think they don't like horror movies. That's fine. But they are going to miss out on cool movies like Coherence and Eternal Sunshine. They might not miss out on Eternal Sunshine as well. I always get in this debate with my boyfriend. He does not think that Jurassic Park is a horror movie, but we all know that Jurassic Park is definitely a horror movie.
It hits all the beats. Come on.
It's like classically a horror movie. There's like murdering dinosaurs.
Yes,
like
right. Murdering. Yes.
Literal monster movie.
Right. And like you said, the social commentary of like, you know, we didn't think about if we should. We just thought if we could, you know, like what are you doing? Are you going to think about before you like make these grand changes? Like, yes.
Yeah, Jurassic Park, that's like I feel like that's one of like the last movies that were like when we had our societal fear of like big science. You know, but it was like we didn't need to worry about cloning dinosaurs. We needed to actually worry about Facebook. Whoops.
Yeah. Now those backflipping robots. You've seen those like robots that are like doing flips and stuff out there? I'm like,
I'm not okay with it.
Can murder all of us. So
my God, exactly. Right?
Why make that?
None of these people saw a horror movie, or they saw them, but they didn't get it. Right? They were like, oh, that's cool technology. I should make that. Not, maybe we should mess around with this. Yes.
It's robots.
Right. Thank you. Yes.
I think about those things so much, but I will say two things about that specifically, because this is a paranormal conference. Somebody showed that you could halt a self-driving car with like a binding circle. Like if you just draw a circle around it and then another circle with dotted lines, it thinks it's trapped in an infinity road and won't move. And I have dealt with like professionally the quote unquote like machine learning systems that are in the back end of a lot of things when you're just like, I'm going to upload a picture of socks for my day job and we're going to sell the socks. It's like the Facebook or whatever is like, the socks are actually drug paraphernalia. So my favorite thing, and you're like, please, a human, look at this. You have to go through a bunch of steps. My literal favorite thing why I'm not worried about AI, like if people are driving those, if there's like a kid with a D-pad, I'm murdered by that robot. But if it's like, we'll let the AI sort it out. The best thing I've ever seen, I can't remember, season 3 or 4 of Rick and Morty, when he is like confronting the robots in the AI uprising, and he just slaps a QR code on a Post-it on his head. And even though he's clearly not a robot, they're just like, robot. Like somebody showed another one of those machine learning things where it's supposed to scan pictures of fruit, and it's like you could take a bunch of bananas, then write like cat on a piece of paper, stick it on the front, and it's like it's a cat. So again, if there are like sociopathic,
come to you when Terminator 2 becomes real.
I'm less concerned. It's like we're worried if there's like all of the like sociopathic gamer children are like behind that, then I'm worried. If it's just like we have the latest AI, it's like I am going to defeat this by putting on one of those comedy horse masks and just living my life like that's.
That would be how it would happen too, like some really easy life hack that somebody figures out just by being an idiot. And it's like, well, they can't detect the horse masks. Everybody,
they think they're all horses, and everybody loves horses, even machines. So we're fine.
Because they came up once before, Juggalo face paint confuses facial recognition.
Yes.
Whoop, whoop. Right. Whoop, whoop, fam. That's right. That's right. Juggalo's at it again.
Yes. Social radicals that they are.
They're killing it. They're killing it.
I
I'm
mean,
a little disappointed that they're doing their whole like what is it called? Shit, I can't think of the name of their festival, but they're having a festival like right now, and it's just like, guys,
oh come on,
but
right?
they're doing everything right up until
Yeah.
the gathering. That's what it's called.
The gathering. That's it. Yes.
Danny Brown's gonna be back.
Yeah.
Obviously want to go, but hello.
Of course.
Oh,
Right.
pandemic.
Still pandemic times. Yes.
Yeah, it's not just doesn't go away just because we're tired of it.
Right. Yes.
That would be
right.
so nice.
It would
Right.
be nice.
There are only certain things we can manifest with our minds. There are other things that are outside of our control, right?
Yeah, because the flesh suit is biological. Like
right.
it's like if you're not going to believe in science as a paranormal investigator, maybe that's one thing because you're spending a lot of time in your mind with your own personal experiences. And sure, I can probably like not hate you for that. But like when it comes to the meat suit, that shit is biological and organic and very scientific.
Yes, there are rules. There's plenty of data. There's plenty of evidence. Yeah.
Hello. So, whoop, whoop.
So do you feel like the horror movies are kind of like the lens is like what we're going to be afraid of next as society? Like
we're seeing that in a big way, like with the specifically like with the Black Lives Matter movement. Movies, Hollywood loves to like perform, you know, their social like obligations. And so they're trying to put as many like people of color in the forefront. And some major critiques that I've been having with the way that the movies that they've been portraying are, so we have like movies starring white people that are fantastical, right? And they're in all these like wild and different situations and alternate dimensions and all these things. And then movies starring people of color are literally just like their lives. And just being like, oh, the lives of people of color are so horrible. And it's like, yes, this is true. Like, but like, we can go further, you know what I mean? Like, this doesn't have to be like the only movie we're seeing, because yes, real life is terrible and it is terrifying. And like, you know, even when Jordan Peele like fantasizes and like kind of makes it a little Twilight Zone-y with Get Out, like it is a real social commentary on like real things. Like, you know, I mean, how many UFO Twitter dudes have probably been like, oh, Black people can really run, just like the family in that movie, you know what I mean? And they're like, I said something nice, so it's not racist. Yes. Yeah. So it's like, they're all really important things, but it's performative, and you know, we need to see all types of people exploring their minds and exploring different, like, you know, histories. Hello, like, I don't know, it's gonna happen. It's just like, I don't know, everything got stirred really fast, and I think people are trying to react and make money.
That is a good point. Yeah.
Maybe once we can start exploring again and being a little less formulaic in how we know how to make money and things like that, movies can get a little bit more exciting.
Right.
Sorry, I'm actually glad you featured Legion. I loved that. I can't believe it made it for 3 seasons.
I know. I can't either. It's so bizarre. I'm like so proud that it exists. I can't even believe it. I'm like, wow, somebody, like a lot of people greenlit this. Like, okay. And like famous people are in it. Like, wow. Okay.
Yeah, a friend of mine told me to watch it, and I was like, what's it about? And just watch. And it was a just watch it.
Same. It took me a long time too, once, because they didn't tell me what it was about, and they were like, oh, it's Legion, it's like a Marvel thing, and I was like, oh, I don't know. Those, like this, like the word Legion and Marvel together didn't actually sound like interesting. It is excellent. It is psychological as fuck. Like so much so that it like twists and bends your own mind while you're watching it. And that's really fun as a viewer, because you feel like you're part of it.
Of course. It's actually it's engaging you on more than just a surface level or just that visceral, like react, jump scare, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, I watched a really good movie a couple nights ago. I should have included it because it did start off as a ghost story, and then it further moved into a monster movie where the monster actually comes out of a box, aka like Dybbuk style. What is it called? Shit, it's on Netflix. It's like No One Gets Out Alive. Mm-hmm. That's a really good one. I don't want to talk. I feel like if I can't say anything because I just told you all to watch it, and if I say stuff, it's going to be spoilery.
That's the problem with horror movies, right?
Oh, that's why I tried to choose a bunch of old ones too. I was like, if I get a little spoilery, y'all had like 20 years to watch Game.
Exactly. No excuse.
Sorry, not sorry.
Like, hate and holler. A lot of people are asking in chat, even if they hate all the Marvel crap, should they watch Legion?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah. It has nothing to do with any other Marvel shit. Like, you literally don't even have to have watched another Marvel movie to watch Legion and get it. It has literally, I can't even believe it's Marvel. Like, and the superheroes are all sort of psychological. So there's the telepath dude. Then there's another woman who, if she touches you with her flesh, she becomes you. And so she's always got gloves on. She's very like Rogue from X-Men, kind of like very cool. And then actually, so this is a really interesting concept too. So she falls in love with that dude, and obviously they cannot bang because their flesh cannot touch. So he's a telepath. So he creates an astral realm where they go to be intimate with each other and just to like have privacy, because they think, or they are, I will not reveal, but they're in this hospital, this like mental hospital. And so they have no privacy, obviously. So this astral realm is like where they meet all the time. And he like takes her there via his mind.
So instead of spooky action in the basement, it's spooky action in the astral realm.
Yeah. What's it like to fart in the astral realm?
We don't have the science yet. That's
fart in the astral realm. We don't have the flesh. We might not fart at all.
That's true.
Something to think about.
Spend the rest of my life figuring that out. I don't know.
Maybe that's the ghost thing too, though.
That's true. Exactly. Yeah. Maybe we're just a fart in the astral realm. That's it.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
I do feel like sometimes, like, have you ever gotten really mad that you kind of felt like your energy like combusted, like, or just like, even just like so like sad and down that it became like something like bigger than you and around you, and you could feel like it enveloping like the aura and stuff. Like, I feel like sometimes like we are capable of leaving those imprints, those astral farts with our energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really funny that you mentioned that. I took the free took a free controlled remote viewing course, and that was
yes.
But the instructor said if you actually take any one thing away from this, not just the remote viewing, they were just like, do the intuition check, and they said every time you cross a threshold, just kind of like check the energy. And I can never remember to do it. I'm gonna have to like write it on my hand. But is that kind of the same?
Yourself to everything too, right? Isn't that the thing? So if you come back and you meet the same thing, it's supposed to be able to tell you your name.
New one on me. That's cool though.
Yep. When you meet creatures in the astral realm, you ask them their name and you tell them yours. It's like a checkpoint, video game style.
Save point, the typewriter in Resident Evil. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's your save point. Yes. And that's how like you're supposed to deal with like tricksters in the astral realm and stuff like that. Because if you get everybody's name, you have like something.
Okay. Wow.
Maybe
try that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I have never been
tips
to the
and tricks.
Realm, but no. I would ask you too, because I started watching this the other day on Netflix. Have you watched Brand New Cherry Flavor?
Ooh, I have not. It is on my list though. I know
okay.
I know I need.
I want wherever
it's great.
You are.
It's great, right?
It's great. It's pretty intense, like on the Legion level. Like it kind of has that vibe, but I just want. That's what I was thinking. I'm just like, I need your opinion on this though. I will seek it out at some point in the future.
Everyone talked to me about horror movies. Like, don't be offended if it takes me a month to get back to you. Time is not real. Release the constraints of time. I'm a single mom. I work a full-time job. I'm in the flesh and blood earth. I'm neurodivergent. I'm not always, just because you see me posting on Twitter does not mean I'm even noticing that I have a notification on my like messages or whatever. Just release and just know that I'll be there eventually. Time is not real.
So true.
Yes.
I love talking about horror movies because they're just like so great. Like we can just go back to that Ju-on idea over and over and over again, right? Like where this imprint that is left. How many shows on the Travel Channel actually talk about that? Like what is the word they use? The residual ghost hunt, where there's like that imprint left, right? And like, what if that imprint is some sort of like nasty feeling? Or for example, our Irish Heritage Center down here is a residual haunt. And if you go in there at night, you can hear construction in the bell tower. And it's just like a loop of construction sounds because the bell tower crashed and people died and it must have left some sort of imprint. But what's interesting is like the construction is what left the imprint, not the death. Mm-hmm. So you don't hear like the crumbling of the bell, you hear the hammering and stuff like that. So it's like people put so much of their effort into building this, that the building of this bell tower is what stuck around and is what you hear over and over and over again. And even though The Grudge is like super sensationalized and like crazy and is pretty scary, to be honest, it is based off of these like really cool concepts that we actually kind of interact with if you seek out in the night.
Right.
Actually, I forgot I was gonna play one more clip from The Grudge because it's really funny. Here, you guys don't have to leave. So this, I'm pretty sure the whole idea behind this moment was to be scary, but it reminded me of Bigfoot. And I want to see if it reminds anybody else of Bigfoot.
I'm not seeing it yet.
Yeah.
No, not yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, so that kid made the cat sound, right? He was like, and it made that guy look behind him, making sure it was the cat, or, you know, he has a hard time believing it's this like ghost kid with pretty sick eyeliner making this like cat sound. And that reminds me of Bigfoot because in most of the investigations I've done where I've been thinking I've been interacting with some kind of Bigfoot creature, is they're always sounding like coyotes, but there's something that's not quite like a coyote. There's like an extra like vocal warble that's like, that always is like, I'm always like, listen to those coyotes. And then you hear it and it's like, wait a minute. And it was kind of like that. Like it sounded like a recording of a cat because it wasn't actually a cat. He was mimicking it, which made the guy kind of turn around, question his sanity, because ghosts will have you doing that at all times.
The worst gaslighters. Like,
you got constantly checking in. Is this happening? Am I imagining it? But Bigfoot will do that too. Mimic sounds. Make you question what you're seeing. Is this real? And that's part of the whole thing, right?
I mean, that goes into the trickster element you were talking about, right? When talking to the astral realm, like what is the energy and the role of these things that, again, do we think it's a Bigfoot? Maybe it's just some sort of manifestation of a trickster energy that certain people can see or hear or interact with, as opposed to a flesh and blood thing that's actually leaving footprints. And which reminds me of more that Adler's saying, like, we're all waves, and like sometimes our wavelengths don't necessarily interact with other wavelengths, so we need these other people in our lives because we're all like a little piece of this puzzle. And some people can interact with, you know, some people see the Hellier balloons and they, you know, they feel really deeply about the tones. And then some other people are like really focused on other aspects. They get really into the Mothman part, and like us all kind of coming together
to kind of like not solve this mystery, but be a part of this mystery is part of the phenomenon, and it's part of our collective waves.
Right. Well, like you were talking about again with horror movies, as your experience of it, right? Your perception of it is part of that process.
Yes.
And so our experience, our processing of this paranormal phenomena is part of the process. It's not existing outside of us. Like there is an interaction there to kind of give it full form. Yeah.
Big time. And like, I feel like for some people, you know, horror movies and ghosts really, they're centering these experiences in their ego, and they're kind of missing a lot when they do that. You know, ego death is a really important part, but you can't necessarily just do it on your own. There's like all kinds of ways that people try to force an ego death, like with, you know, psychotropic like substances and things like that. But sometimes it's like hitting a rock bottom, you know, or just failure, or, you know, like there's some sort of ego death that is really important to us, because otherwise, you know, there's all those macho dudes that are just like, I saw that horror movie, it didn't scare me. And like, that's their lens. That's what they're looking for. They're looking to one up the director of a movie that scared a lot of people. And it's not the same in the paranormal, but I do see a lot of people hinging their confidence on the fact that they are having synchronicities, or that they are having ghost experiences. I am special because I'm having these experiences. And that's sad, because you are special without these experiences. They don't validate your specialness. That is not what they're here for. So I hope that, you know, all of this can like help people kind of like overcome these things instead of pushing their insecurities through these things.
Yeah.
I hope that horror movies can help sometimes, maybe.
Well, that's why
I think they can kind of trigger things that we don't necessarily want to think about too, and they can traumatize us for bad and maybe for good, to kind of like get something back to the forefront of your mind so you can heal it. But that depends on the individual and how much you're willing to take on.
Well, I mean, that's it too. Like what you're talking about with these macho guys who are like trying to one up the director. It's like people are terrified of change and like using that as a point of pride. It's like, or surrender to it and be transformed, right? Like that's the ego death that you're talking about. Like you're
transformed.
Right. You're putting up these barriers to the experience. Surrender to the experience. You might actually learn something about yourself and the world.
Yeah,
exactly.
There's a lot to be learned in all forms of art, you know. It's all, I mean, sure, plenty of horror movies are, you know, Hollywood commercialized things to just, I don't know, entertain us, but I think there's plenty of art available even in those big budget. Like, I'm sure there's some lesson someone can learn from watching The Conjuring, even if, you know, it kills their love of Lorraine Warren or something.
Like, some things need to be transformed. So yes.
Be transformed, you know, like I hated the third one until I watched a little behind the scenes on it. I don't know if you've seen the opening scene of that, where this kid is like, it's like the great standard like horror ghost situation where it's like crawling and it's all like break dancing, like pop and lock ghosts. I don't know why, like we've decided as a society this is the most scary version of a ghost that's like pop and locking. I don't find that scary.
Like a ghost and a spider in one.
Like lay down some like cardboard and put on a beat. Like it's kind of
exactly.
No, my mind just went to the Thriller video when I was just like.
The Conjuring opens up with a scene like that, but it's not CGI. The kid like really did it, and I was like, okay, that's actually very cool.
Yes, that sounds amazing.
That's art. Like that's dope.
Right, exactly. There was a real performance there and a real artistic goal there. Like, let's actually have a kid do this weird thing. It's gonna scare everyone.
When you watch it, you're gonna be like, what? Because he like folds in half like backwards, and you're just like, it looks CGI too. Like they have like, you know, they like those movies, they always throw a bunch of filters on them to make them look old. It kind of like looks like a little bit fake.
Sure.
But holy shit, he did it. So
it's 50% thriller and 50% one of those like Michael Gondry videos for Aphex Twin from the 90s. Like,
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Come to daddy.
Come to daddy. That's what I was thinking of.
That's the one, right?
Yeah.
I want your soul.
Yup.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Folks out in the audience, do any of you have questions for Katie? I'm scanning. I see a lot of good comments. Also, Nanette, our moderator, has pointed out that the same macho dudes cannot mentally tolerate being told to pull their masks up over their noses. So I don't really care if they didn't find the horror movie scary.
Right.
Yeah.
If chat doesn't have any questions, Katie, I'm desperate to talk to you about horror movies and astrology and tarot and how you have blended them in this incredible way on TikTok, which you're kind enough to share on Twitter because I'm rarely on TikTok.
Yeah. I know. I honestly, the appeal for TikTok for me, sorry, I live in between a fire station and a hospital, so the sirens are just constant. Yeah. But TikTok for me was all about the like green screen.
Oh,
I just don't know how to do that otherwise, so I just got a TikTok to use the platform for its green screen.
Brilliant.
I figured that would be better for the horoscopes to have the movie.
Of course.
So I shared everywhere else because I'm also not invested in TikTok. As a creator, I actually love TikTok as a viewer. I am learning so much. There's so many people out there that just take you through graveyards and like clean the graves and like do all kinds of really cool like paranormally stuff on TikTok and like historical lessons and oh my gosh.
Right.
That dude that was like the liminal people are on TikTok doing really fun stuff. Their TikTok's easily one of my favorites. It's not really one if you're like just scrolling with no time. You have to like take some time with Liminal Earth. They like want your attention, and that's a good thing.
Yes.
Some of these other ones are really just like
we do have
Michael Myers
question.
And stuff. That's fun too.
Right.
Yes.
You have a late question from Jacqueline in the audience. She wants to know if you have watched and analyzed any horror or psychological animes like you have.
Oh yeah,
films.
Totally. Let's see. Oh, I'm spacing on his name. Shit. I'm so bad off the top. The minute somebody needs something from me, my brain is like blank. I'm like, what is that guy? Oh, Satoshi Kon. Satoshi Kon did Paranoia Agent and Paprika and Blue.
Perfect Blue?
Perfect Blue. Thank you. Yes.
Sure. Yes.
Perfect Blue is like one of the most perfect movies of all time.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Unbelievable. If you have not watched that, it is worth renting. It is worth whatever $4 to $6 to rent it on your streaming service because one of the most perfect movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I would say like there are a lot of horror concepts pushed through anime, even like Miyazaki films for like Spirited Away. First of all, like a lot of horror concepts in Spirited Away. One of my favorite reasons Spirited Away fits into the horror movie genre is also because of its childlike wonder. So it's through the eyes of a child, so it's a really different perspective. And of course an adult is making this, so it's like an adult version of the child, so it's like a little bit meta in that way. But childlike wonder is so important, and it's come up a few times in this conference, and it's important to bring it up again because the minute you start getting like so serious about stuff is when you lose some of the reason you're experiencing it in the first place. Sometimes Argento just agrees. He's like really into that.
He's like, it's like you have a hype man right there.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. He's just cheering me on back here, running around. And the childlike wonder is just like important because a lot of the feelings when you go back nostalgia wise are pre-trauma and they're pre bias and they're pre these these things that happened to you that conditioned you to be hard, and it allows you to be soft and it allows you to experience this world before it hurt you. And so I think like there's something really magical about being able to tap into certain memories of your childhood. I'm sure, not all of us, there isn't a person out there that had a perfect childhood. We all have things that happen to make us who we are, but there has to be like certain moments you can go back to conjure these like feelings of, I just keep saying childlike wonder, but for me, it's like, I was really into playing with trees and making tacos out of like maple leaves and like birch bark and like different things like that. And like, I'll remember like the way the trees felt when I climbed them and things like that. And I feel like being able to tap into those memories and brings back that like feeling. And I think being able to access and conjure these feelings through memories is really important for divination, and it's really important for magic. Which is why I'm so fascinated with that movie or the TV show Legion, because it explores different ways to access different realms of your mind. John Tenney, I'm not going to tell you his story because he is a professional lecturer. He gets like paid to tell his stories. It would be wrong to tell one of his stories for free. And it's not mine, so I'm not double wrong.
Although he has heard people tell his stories to his face as if they were his.
I know that. I know one of those people that did that.
No,
they're evil.
Clearly, yes.
Yes, that's an evil thing to do. But also part of the childlike wonder is the secrets. So this is my secret that I get to have with like the 100 other people that were at this John Tenney lecture with John Tenney. So we all have a secret. And so that's another reason I don't want to tell the entire story, but I can give you an outside view of it because it's really important to the childlike wonder that we all keep talking about and why it's so important. So John was given instructions on how to see gnomes in a certain woods. And the instructions were silly little things that he had to do every single day, like a little ritual, like little things like spin around in a circle with 5 steps. And just like all of these little nuanced things that you would do as a kid, like cross the crosswalk with only jumping on the white lines. And just like all of these like little fun little things like that. Because when you're engaging this way in play like that, you're taking away society, you're engaging in play. And that is how you see gnomes, apparently.
Amazing.
And other creatures, because you have to be able to play and you have to be able to be loose and ready to accept what you're going to see, because what you're going to see is going to be just as silly as a lot of the things that you did, So if you're willing to complete these things, do these things, it's almost like saying you're being granted access to these other realms because you're showing, 1, your dedication, but 2, that you're willing to be as silly as the things that you're about to witness.
Mm-hmm. Right. You're initiating yourself essentially into that state of consciousness. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why a lot of people get initiated when they watch Hellier, because they're engaging with silly things. A tin can, a balloon, they're engaging, getting hypnotized to try and get abducted. Like they're doing silly things to show dedication to this realm and this phenomena, and to show that if something silly presents itself, they're going to be willing to see it because they're willing to engage in play. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's happened to us too. when we see these synchronicities, we get to engage in however we want to show up into the phenomenon is how the phenomenon is going to show up to us.
Exactly. Yes.
So get silly.
It's the best advice, I think, for all of us. Yeah.
Yeah. Play, like literally, like make believe, you know, like,
yeah.
And that's like one of those things that goes back to horror movies. Like if you want to call Candyman 5 times in your mirror and you want to believe so deep in Candyman or something like that, and it scares you because you believe it, this is like your new reality. Like you are in deep and you like believe this thing. And so that's like, if you want to believe in elves and gnomes, like you are in deep now, like you believe in elves and gnomes and this is your reality. And you can take it seriously if you want and get scared, or you can be really silly and try to engage in a new way and make this a part of who you are. I'm the person that believes in elves and I leave them biscuits at 5 o'clock every Wednesday because I decided that that's when we're going to do it because it's ruled by Mercury. I don't know.
Right? Biscuit, it's biscuit o'clock. Let's do it.
Yeah, exactly. Come get your biscuits, elves. Let's go.
I'm going to start a biscuit ritual. I've decided.
Yeah, biscuit ritual.
Good idea.
Faye love the biscuits. Put a little honey on that.
That's it. Yes.
That makes me feel good to hear you say that, though, because my mind always is thinking of like really silly things. And a lot of it is pop culture related, but when you were talking about Hellier, when they're finally, no spoilers, I think everybody's seen it here like 50 times. Yeah, when they're doing
not here because of Hellier, like how did you?
How do you know any of us?
when they're doing the ritual, and Greg is trying to invoke Pan, and he's Eopan. All I could think about was Michael Keaton, like Pan as Michael Keaton in Beetlejuice showing up in the cave,
right?
Being
that would have been
great. Showtime.
If only. It just like honks on his nuts.
I actually kind of felt like I'm like, oh, this is a really solemn moment, and I'm thinking about Michael Keaton again.
That's good, right? That's good. I feel Pan would love that shit though, right? He's like the god of mischief.
That's
He's out
it.
there
Exactly.
To play around. He's like, yeah, you think of Michael Keaton and you laugh.
Yes.
Drink some wine while you're at it.
Exactly.
Yes.
More wine.
More wine. Yep.
That's Adler just said from now on forever saying come get your biscuits when she leaves an offering. So that is the official.
Amazing.
That's another Pan Paracon slogan right there. Come get your biscuits.
Come get your biscuits.
Come get your biscuits here. Come on, little babies. Mama's got your biscuits.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
It's already 8 o'clock.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
It went by so fast.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Well, the time is an illusion, so we got caught in the moment.
We did.
Yeah.
And we have to bring on the one and only Mr. Rob Christofferson.
I'm so sad. I have to go do a seance and his thing isn't going to be saved. So someone tell me all of the
Does
good
he
things.
Well, you may see it in the future though, still.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
I follow him on Twitter, so I do get a lot of cool UFO stories.
He is the cool.
Yeah.
He has all the cool UFO stories.
Oh my god, he's so deep in it.
He's got them on tap.
Exactly.
He's the hookup for the coolest UFO stories.
Katie, before we let you go, can you plug everything that you want to plug?
Sure.
Great.
I am starting a Patreon.
Yay.
I started making it in Mercury retrograde shadow, so I feel like I have to launch it in its shadow again. So I'm going to launch it after the 18th so I can prepare further. But that one's just going to give you like, when I do the horoscopes, I do a tarot reading and then I kind of come up with the movie and then it kind of morphs after I watch the movie or remember the movie. So nobody ever sees like that first tarot reading. So you'll get all of those like tarot readings and you'll come on the journey of the horoscopes with me. So you'll kind of like learn that way. I do have like a tarot class that you can buy So I'm not going to do like tarot lessons per se, but I'll do all kinds of videos, and we'll go to the Western Cemetery where I have a relationship with a ghost in there, and you'll now have a relationship with the ghosts in there, and we'll do all kinds of fun stuff. So Patreon will be fun. I'm going to try to raise some money because I've been working on a ghost case for the past 8 or 9 years, heavily over the past 3 years. But I'm at the point where I'm at a breaking point. I'm at a dead end. I need a car. So Patreon is going to help me get a car. And then we're going to go ghost hunting together.
Yay.
In my car. And we're going to go further with this case. So you'll get involved with that case as well too. So that's a future thing. Everything's kind of in the future. I'm in a transitional phase. The bridge deck is sold out. The flip book deck is sold out because there's new ones coming. So I have a link tree. You can use that. You can go to gorganized.me. I'm going to update my website with some other stuff. I haven't looked at it in a long time.
It happens, right?
Yes, yeah.
Time keeps screwing with us. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, all kinds of new stuff coming.
Amazing.
Yeah,
well, we're all excited. We all follow you on
excited.
Twitter, so we only want success for you. Yeah.
Follow me on social media and you'll hear about it all.
Love it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for
thank
being
you for
here.
coming
What a
here,
delight.
seriously.
This was so
Yeah,
fun.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
So great. So fun. This convention has been great.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for being a part of
Thank
it.
you.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm honored, literally.
Aw, thanks.
Great. Well, good luck with your contact.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Time to go do a seance.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Say hi to Beetlejuice
Right.
for me.
Yeah.
I will. Yeah, totally. What's his name? Alex. What am I trying to say? Michael Keaton. Alex.
Yes.
Yeah.
The brain.
Alex
How does
wants
the
to
brain
talk
work?
to you.
Alex.
Right. All right.
Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna
Have fun
leave.
tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're
Bye.
welcome. Bye.